one of the biggest qualities of, you know what, I could almost say, this isn't exactly right. I was going to say the most important, but you can't really ever say that. You just can't say that. There's not like one thing. Everybody says, so what's the one thing? Well, it's never just one thing. I mean, it's a few things that are more important than other things. I mean, like if I said, what's the one thing you need to survive? You get to choose. You want air, water, or, food. Well, pretty much need all three. Okay. So it's kind of like that. But this is in that food group. What I'm about to talk about is in the food group of the most important things. And I've never, ever, ever seen a 360-degree successful person who did not embrace this quality. And what I mean by 360 degrees, talk about character issues a lot as being important for success. And everybody always says, oh, well, what about my boss? He's a jerk and he's really successful. No, he's not. No, he's not. He might look really successful for a moment, one frame in a long movie called Life, but how many broken relationships does he have personally? How many people have left the company because of the culture? I mean, people, you don't get a pass when you're a jerk. You just don't. I wrote about this in the book Integrity, which is about being integrated, being a whole person. And we got to have, pretty much all the important things working in order to be truly, truly successful in life. So here we go. Here it is. Ready? Embrace. You know what embrace means? It's like a hug. It's like putting your arms around something. And what do you do when you put your arms around something? You got to move towards it. Important word. Move towards and grab and hug and embrace the negative realities in your life. Embracing the negative realities in your life. Now, what are negative realities and what does embrace mean? Well, negative realities can be the negative realities inside of me, first of all, right? Can be the negative realities inside and outside, wherever they show up, of the people that I have to deal with in my life, or I get to deal with. Sometimes have to, sort of. Negative stuff we get from people. And then the third thing is the negative realities of life itself. Whatever life throws at us, could be work or personal. Right now we're in a negative reality called COVID. And there are people that are embracing that better than some other people are. Some people are total denial of it, for example. All right, so here's the deal. Why do I say embrace? And what does embrace mean? It means to move towards and hug the negative realities. Well, why in the world would I ever want to do that? Well, because they are. They are. They exist. And when something exists in our lives, then it exists. And to pretend like it doesn't is not going to make it go away most times. And to do things other than embrace it is not going to make it go away most times. And if it does make it go away, it's going to make it be replaced by bigger problems than we solved. Here's what I mean by that. When we have a conflict with somebody, instead of embrace it, we could attack it, right? You can yell and scream and all of that, and maybe they'll shut up, maybe they'll go away. But now we got a bigger problem that we created by the attempt to solve the problem. And the definition of dysfunction in the way that I think about it, people talk about dysfunction as, well, I got all these problems. That's not dysfunction. Humans have problems. That's if you got problems, you're alive. Thank God you got problems. If you didn't have any problems, you wouldn't be on this side of the dirt. That's not dysfunction. Dysfunction is this. Here's my definition. Dysfunction is when we apply effort to solve a problem, it gets worse, not better. So you see two couples, for example, one of them's bugged with the other one, and they address the problem, but they scream and they're sarcastic, and they're controlling. Well, now the addressing of the problem made a bigger problem. That's dysfunction. That's crazy. All right. So when I say embrace the negative, why do I say embrace? Well, when you hug somebody, what's your motion if you put it on a GPS? Are you moving towards or are you moving away? Well, you're moving towards, right? Now, this is key. This is what I see in very, very successful people. It's when there is a problem, they face it, they move towards it, they pick up the phone and call the person. There's a conflict or hurt, they move towards. There's a moving towards, but a moving towards in a non-attacking way. Now, for those of you who have studied conflict, anxiety, stress, panic, whatever, you know this. Problems create stress, correct? All right. And when you're stressed, what happens inside your brain? What little button gets pushed? A bunch of you know this. The fight or flight or freeze button. And it is a chemical reaction from the part of your brain that you do not have control of directly by just talking to it sometimes. If the stress hormones are enough, they get released to activate fight or flight. What do? You don't act anymore, you react. So you get mad and somebody bugs you, fight them, you yell at them or scream or protest. How could you have done that? You know, that kind of stuff. Doesn't help. Okay? Or you don't fight it, you flight it. See, fighting is not embracing. Flighting, moving away, avoiding, not answering your phone when you see their name come up, avoiding the conflict, running away, being passive about it, that does not make it go away. Time does not heal. Time heals all things. Yeah, right. Tell that to an infected tooth. Just give it another month. No, you're going to end up having a root canal or an extraction. And that's what happens to a lot of relationships. They don't address the little bit of plaque they got on there or the little, small little cavity, and you let it go on, and then you end up, tooth's got to be pulled. So embracing means I'm going to move towards. I'm going to hug it. What's the matter? That's the opposite. That's the opposite of moving against. Do you get it? So fight or flight is not a good way to solve problems. That's our reactive brain. And that brain is not really connected to the one that knows how to solve the problems through thinking and judgment and wisdom, emotional regulation. All that comes from a different part of us. So I'll tell you a quick story, and this is the way I want you to think about you, and then I'll give you a couple of tips. I was just at a brunch one day, and I was talking to a very, very, very successful man that I won't name, but who has been an important coach and mentor for me. He's older and wiser for a long time. And we're sitting there talking, and I said, so what you got going? He says, well, I got a tough week coming up. This is on a Sunday brunch. I said, what is it? And he said, I'll never forget this phrase. He said, I've got to face into a lot of relationship conflict this week. I said, why? And he said, well, I'm going on a trip week after this. And he said, I just want to get all this stuff kind of resolved and tied up before I leave. Now, I want you to listen to that phrase. I've got to face into. Another way you hear it said is I got to lean into. That's why I say embrace. He said face into. Such an active term that he's going to look at it. He's not going to be an ostrich. He's going to look at it. You know the word confront? It means to face something frontally. Confront is not necessarily an aggressive, angry term. It just means we're going to look this in the eye. So that's what I'm talking about. Now I want you to think about, because we all have these patterns. I'm not throwing any stones here, okay? That's why I started with ourselves. Remember, one of my favorite verses, Jesus said we got to get the log out of our own eye, even to see clearly, to be able to even know what to address in somebody else's eye. We can't even see them clearly. Boy, do we see that all the time today in the warring people breaking up families because of a discussion over some current issue. They can't even see the other person. They can't even see the conflict because of the hatred that they're walking around with. You see it on both sides. It's crazy. You can't even have objective conversations with people. That's how it is in conflict. If we don't face what's inside of us first, then we can't deal with the outside world. That's why growth and emotional maturity and emotional regulation and EQ, they call it nowadays, emotional intelligence, that's why it's the greatest predictor of success in people's lives. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about embracing. One of my favorite verses also, it shows the embrace. Talk about it a lot. It's a good one. It's a passage, Matthew 18, starting in verse 15 to about 18 or 19. It says, if somebody bugs you, go to them, go and talk with them in private. Moving towards. See, they bugged me. I've heard people say, well, they bugged, they're the ones who did it. It's not my responsibility. Oh, yes, it is. Are you kidding me? That's like saying somebody's lying in the street and the ambulance driver, the paramedic, well, it's their responsibility to come here. Really? I think it's the more mature one in the moment, or whoever has the best knowledge of what happened, or whoever's experiencing the pain. We have to take the first step. And then says if that doesn't work, then it doesn't work, but you did what you're supposed to. But then it says keep embracing it. Get a couple of people to go with you. And then past that, maybe do an intervention. And then past that, it says whatever you bind on earth is going to be bound. In other words, we can contain people's dysfunction that's ruining a family if we go and address it. And sometimes it may take a whole group. But see, that's embracing the problem, isn't it? It's not running from it. And then look at the other side. What if somebody's bugged with me? Well, that's their responsibility. No, it's not. There's another verse that says this. God doesn't even want us to go talk to him and pray and even give our offerings if somebody else is bugged with us until we've addressed it. He says, put it down first, go be reconciled to the other person. See, go and address the problem. Don't come talking to me as if everything's fine when somebody that you love and somebody that I love, you're in a conflict with. That'd be like a parent. One of my daughters is in a conflict with her sister, and she comes to me and wants me to act like everything's cool. I go talk to your sister. That's more important right now. problems in our businesses, problems in our work life, problems in our health. Embrace the negative, move towards it, and resolve it. Don't attack it, don't deny it, don't judge it, don't throw stones at it, but do everything you can to make it better. Be an agent of change, be a redemptive force, be a healing voice in the negative that is around us. And sometimes I understand. And the very passage I gave you says that at the end, Matthew 18:15 through 18 or 19. After you've tried a bunch of stuff and somebody's not willing to get with the program, then you might have to say, I can't be with you until you do. You might have to separate. And that is embracing the problem for sure. That's not running from it.